And Cory Show. It's me, Corey Adams. Ray's a little bit under the weather. I don't know what's going on with him as of right now, so hopefully he's okay. So I'm flying solo today for our first podcast back in a while and our first show on YouTube. But the funny thing is, without Ray being here, I have a very special guest today, and finally, all of you get to see Cory Adams go one-on-one with Don Kincaid. What's up, Don?
What's up, my man? I'm sorry that Ray couldn't make it, but hey, here we is, my man.
Yeah, and it's been a while, too. I mean, wrestling's starting to come back now. COVID's pretty much almost behind us. So this will be a good year for wrestling, I think.
Well, it's starting off with a bang, I tell you, because the indie scene has been opening and has been putting on events all over the place, just from our local scene and across the country, from like a test of strength to a shut up and wrestle to a beyond. And I mean, all over the world, wrestling is just about fully back, my man.
Yeah, I think wrestling was the first to do it because the beginning of the NHL playoffs, or not the beginning, I think first round, the Boston Bruins were the first team to have 18,000 in the arena. So that was only, I think, like it was either last week or the week before. So wrestling was the very first to come back, I believe.
And not only that, I mean, they brought in, like they say, 25,000. I mean, let's be honest, that place was jamming. So, I think they're tweaking the numbers just a little bit, you know?
Oh, they always do. They always do. And then you also got to do, especially like if you're looking at like an AEW or WWE level, you got to think they always flub the numbers because you also got all those comp tickets that they count but don't tell you. So you don't know actually how many are family and how many are paid.
Yep, that's for sure.
So I want to get a little bit about you, because you help, like, you're more than just a fan. Like, you help all these indie promotions. You help all us wrestlers. But I remember meeting you only a couple years ago, and I've been a fan of wrestling since the 80s, and I started wrestling in about 2005. When did you first become a fan of wrestling in general, and when did you discover the indies?
Well, I can sum that up very quickly. 8 years old, I went to my first live event, but previous to that, it was my pop getting me in front of the TV and just watching some wrestling. You know, we were watching the AWA, the WCCW, and then of course the WWF. You know, at that time. So I mean, and I hope I don't monetize it yet, or Uncle Vince does it. But you know, as a kid, I don't remember the TV a whole lot. But when leading up to that first live event, it was a live house show at the time. And there was a co-main event, with the main event being, the co-main event was Tito Santana and Ivan Putski going against the Wild Samoans, along with obviously Captain Lou Albano. And that was the co-main event. And the main event was the champion, Bob Backlund, going against Cowboy Bob Orton himself. And it was a banger. That was 1978. And I remember it like it was yesterday somehow, some way, Mr. Adams. Because like I said, previous to that, I didn't remember a whole lot of the TV, but I remember my old man sitting me down and watching wrestling. But man, oh man, whenever I went to that live event, I was like so more into it, you know, and I was only like being 8 years old at the time. So, I just sunk my teeth into those few organizations that we spoke of, and the NWA as well back then. And so I was kind of watching the old school stuff growing up because obviously, you know, in my era. And I was just kind of thinking, it's funny you asked me that, because I was thinking about the WCCW and the characters that they brought to the table that later on were just larger than life. And I mean, not that they weren't back then in the WCCW days, but I'll use a prime example. I mean, you had the likes of the Freebirds and the Von Erichs and the Bruiser Brodies and the Great Kabukis and all of these, the gentleman Christopher Adams. I mean, you had all of these great, great characters. But one guy that really sticks out, well, actually two, because one helped the other, is one Rick Rude. I was introduced to this guy right in front of our eyes on TV, watching those Saturday morning wrestling programs. And none other than Percy Pringle, a.k.a. Paul Bearer, was his manager. And I bring that up specifically because look at what he went on to do. Not just Rick Rude, but also Percy Pringle. Totally two larger-than-life, over-the-top personalities that just brought so many memories and so much inspiration for the younger generation wrestlers to want to become a wrestler. And not only that, the fans, generation from myself and then the generation that came after myself, they latched on to these personalities. So wrestling started obviously way before I did, but just from my era of the late 70s, I'm telling you, Mr. Adams, they were introducing us to some great, great characters with lots of charisma. And man, did they ever go on and do big, big, huge things. And not only that, Jeff Jarrett, the double J, the Jeff himself, he was part of that class, if you will, in the WCCW days. So I bring that up specifically because of the question that you asked me. So I kind of piggybacked on that. And it just brought memories of TV programming that I latched on to once I really jumped into wrestling. But those were the major promotions at that time. And when it came to the indie scene, I really splashed in very little here and there. And I'm going to go back to like local stuff being some NEW, like the Terryville High School, I dove into, and some of the high schools around here that NEW was bringing their events. But I was doing stuff like DPW, ACW out of the Waterbury area with Jason Knight running it, ACW.
You want to hear a funny story about ACW?
Please do tell.
So, I was always under the pressure. I don't know if you want to call it sheltered, but all I knew was WWF and WCW. And I didn't even know about WCW until 1994. Because we were just WWF. So I didn't even know the indies existed. So it was 2003. I was a junior in high school. I remember, like you said, we were in the study hall, and my buddy leans over and he's like, "I won tickets to this show, to this wrestling show. Do you want to go?" I'm like, "WWE? I don't think they're coming around here." He goes, "No." He goes, "It's at this place in New Britain." I'm like, "Okay." So we went, and it was ACW. So it was my first introduction to indie wrestling. And we're juniors in high school. We're 17, and they sit us at the bar in the 21 and older section.
Wow.
And that was my introduction to indie wrestling.
And you were seeing these local guys, and it was such a different ambiance, a different feel. Wrestling, everything, the production, because it's obviously not TV. But you grasped right onto it, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, that's when I was like, because growing up, I was always told it's a close-knit business. You need to know somebody to get in. You're not you can't become a wrestler, this and that. And then once I learned about the indies, I'm like, then I started doing my research. Maybe I can do this.
Right.
But even back then, even when right before I started, it was still hard to find places to train. It was still kind of it was kind of going to the new school, but it's still kind of old school. So you didn't have all the places now. You could just look up a wrestling school and go.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and the reason why I was asking that question is because I didn't know of you until I met you through Fogman.
Well,
So
go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, so I didn't know, like, because I didn't know you've been around since the ACW days. Like, we probably passed each other in passing and didn't even realize it.
Well, like I said, I kind of splashed a little bit of the indies back then. I never even knew Fogman or any of the guys or, who was who. But when me and my pop were hitting these small places, like we would go to Sports Palace in New Britain, or we would go to like I believe their first ACW show, if I'm not mistaken, because I do have a foggy memory, was like in maybe Meriden or something like that at a Knights of Columbus, and then I ended up bringing in a couple of my coworkers where I was working at that time, and we went to a couple more shows, and then all of a sudden it kind of just faded away. I picked up music. I started just jamming out with different bands and doing my thing, and then once I was like, I kind of had my fill. I got a bit older. I'm like, I want to kind of check out wrestling again. Like I would always watch it on TV, but I wanted to check out the local scene. So I just started poking on Facebook, and I found Pioneer Valley Pro out of Massachusetts. They were running out of South Hadley at the time. I went on a whim. I drove up by myself. I took an hour ride. I paid $10 to get in the door. I mean, how can you beat an event for $10? I mean,
Yeah.
come on. And I swear I do not lie or fib on any of this. I never looked back again. I went to as much wrestling as I probably could fit in within my work schedule and my family schedule. I just found that it was such a great setting. And I remember it brought me back to the ACW days when we're going to the Knights of Columbus and checking out this fun stuff. So I said, hey, Dad, I went and checked out a place. Sorry, I didn't take you, but it was on a whim. I go, you feel like getting into it? And he started coming with me. So that was probably like, I want to say late 2015, possibly early 2016. And I've never looked back ever since. And I was going to approximately an average of 15 shows a month for, I mean, a solid few years there. But then as a fan, I had to pull it back because I was buying all sorts of merch. I'm going to all sorts of shows, and I'm doing, like putting a bunch of money into it, and I just had to pull it back for a bit there. And then the pandemic hit,
Yeah, so while you're doing all this and discovering all these shows and getting really back into it, and you're getting into it heavy, and now, when did you decide, or how did the Kincaid Files come about through all this? Where you started, like, interviewing guys and posting it, and...
Well, that's actually another funny story, because I started just recording, at PvP, like probably the second or third show in, I see people with their phones and recording, so I'm like, I'm going to give it a whirl. So I whipped up my phone and I didn't sit in my seat. I actually went to, I would lean up against a wall and just start filming and stuff. And someone came up to me, which again, I knew nothing about the scene itself. He's like, hey, I appreciate you recording and stuff. Just make sure you tag us and stuff like that. But don't be putting full matches out. You can kind of clip it. And I'm like, absolutely, no problem. But I wasn't actually recording like the full match. What I started doing was, I can read the ring pretty good. Now, obviously, I'm not going to catch every single cool move that happens by doing it this way. I did some neat stuff, but I could read the ring. So if I see something as being quote unquote set up, I'm going to pull out the camera. I'm going to hit record. I'm going to zoom in if need be, and I'm going to follow what's going on. Then I would stop record, and then I would pull it back up and do this in a concession. So that's how I kind of started recording. And then when it came to the Kincaid File, and that just blossomed into networking with wrestlers, promoters, managers, and ring announcers, and everybody that's kind of within that family, that community, if you will. And it was really fun connecting with the personalities, because I'm like, wow, this is like the coolest shit going on, because now I'm meeting the people that are actually performing in the ring. And if you go back way, and I speak about this on my interviews, if you go way back to when wrestling was really getting this heavy steam, and I mean, just like Vince Jr., I'm talking when the old man was running the place, when it was WWF, you weren't able as a fan or as a media guy or something like that to go beyond that imaginary line between fan and wrestler. And we may have spoken about this before previously too. It's an honor and a privilege, and I don't care in what forum, if it's the bigger companies with the bigger production and on TV, or if it's within the smaller ranks of the minor leagues, if you will, being the independent scene, the test of strengths and the PPWs and such. It's an honor and a privilege, and I will always label it as such, to be able to talk to these guys, these girls that perform in the ring and take their time to talk to me while I'm just some Joe Schmo with a phone hanging out. And I've always said that, Corey. I'm a dude with a phone. They say otherwise because of what it's become, but I still hold that motto to this day. I'm a dude with a phone that just happens to have made relationships and friendships with the talent over the course of doing these things. And I will always use those two words, and I will never say it any differently: an honor and a privilege. And for any fan that thinks that they can get up all in the talent's business and be cool with it, and this is no rant by any means, because I don't.
Oh yeah.
I feel that they think they can cross that line without ever realizing that it's actually there. They don't see a line as a fan. They just think you can just jump into their life and be part of the business, if you will. I will never do that. I never attempted to do that. They opened their arms to what I was giving them, with a little bit more exposure, more eyes seeing, because you never know who's watching. And the buzz just started going around and around, like, who the F is this guy, Don Kincaid? And I just kept doing it at more shows and more shows. And I never put myself out like, hey, I'm coming here to record. Do you think I could come in the door for free? No. I would never, ever say anything like that. I always went as a fan. I never would like, I'm Don Kincaid. I never did that. But I just felt good knowing that I'm going to see at least a few familiar faces that I've gained relationships with over the course, that I get to say hi to. I get to give a hug to, a handshake to. And they come up to me and they say, hey, Kincaid, what's good? I absolutely adore those relationships, Corey. I think it's the coolest shit alive as a fan to be able to do that. And I know I kind of rambled a little bit here, but I kind of wanted to give the people that are listening, there is a line that you have to invisibly see.
Yeah,
with
definitely.
Words. Yeah, with your words, with your physical being, with how you carry yourself. There's always that invisible line. And I get to cross that. And not only that, I get to cross the physical line, being the curtain, going to the back room, which is even just mind altering. Because I'm just a dude with a phone. I'm fucking serious. And I don't know if I can swear, but damn.
Oh, you can swear. Go ahead.
I am just a dude with a fucking phone. And all of these things that have gone on in the past 4 or 5 years, it's just absolutely mind-altering for me. And not only me, which is crazy because my mom acts her ass off at all of this. Because obviously she doesn't go to the show. She's a little more disabled, you know, over the past course, the past 5, 6, 7 years. She's become, you know, age has kicked her butt a little bit. But my dad, it hasn't hit him as much, and he's retired now. He goes to all the shows. He loves when these guys and girls jazz me and Ref Bill kicks me in my shin. And these guys, like, throw shit at me and call me names and jazz me and stuff. Because I'm giving this to the bad guys, to the heels, if you will. We like to poke the heels. We like to lift and cheer the good guys. So now my dad has actually kind of turned a leaf. If Ref Bill hasn't kicked me and he didn't see me, this son of a bitch will call him. And we'll say, hey, Ref Bill, you forgot to kick my kid. I mean, like, what the hell? My dad sells me out to all the talent now, Cory. It's like, what the fuck, man? But with all of that said, and I know I'm getting a little excited, with all of that said, that's the enjoyment of the friendships and relationships that I've made with the talent. Again, may it be the wrestlers, ring announcers, managers, timekeepers, bell ringers. I don't care. I have always opened. I will introduce myself to anybody. I really don't care. That's how I met Matt DeCourt, and I just had him on Stirring the Pot. Matt DeCourt, he started as a guy. He was Matt DeCourt, the money taker at the Friday Night Alley fights. So you make these steps in your journey in wrestling. I've been offered different positions at different promotions, and I've almost actually turned them all down because I want to be a fan. I would love to do something then. I guess that would be fun. I would like that, but
what a lot of people don't know is you actually helped WCW out of a jam at WWE Undisclosed, which is on YouTube, where there was no camera person and just you filmed the whole show and got it perfect.
Well, I appreciate those kind
of. And a lot of people probably don't know that.
Well, it's funny you kind of say that because not only WCWE, there's been other instances where SCW made their debut, Survival Championship Wrestling, Wrestler, I think it was Wrestler New York or something like that. They had a guy who came with a bunch of equipment, set up all of his stuff. He looked all sorts of professional. I get a message from the promoter, the owner, and says, "Hey, man, the dude's footage, nothing happened. Like, he's got zero footage." He goes, "What did you record?" I go, "I recorded every match." They used my footage to introduce their debuting because they didn't have anything else. So there's different instances where promotions have used my footage and solely because they had nothing else. And Cory, I mean, it's the 2000s. You have to have some type of media. Without that, what do you do with your talent, your fan base? You don't get to introduce the talent to the fan base because you have nothing to produce, you know? So it's made me feel really, really heartfelt and so warm that I've been able to given you guys and girls that footage. Because and let me put this out there, and I know I did not answer the question of how Kincaid Files started yet, but I want to put this out there that I have never once because I've jumped into graphics lately. I don't know if you've seen my flooding of graphics.
Oh, yeah, I
have. I don't charge a person for a damn thing. Nothing. I feel the talent gives us so much of their physical being, their mental being at these events. I'm paying $10, $15, $20. Sometimes they're free. If I'm going to these shows and I'm only getting charged these little nominal fees, which I can handle, which is actually a value that I can continue going to multiple events. I feel my payback for that, you need footage? I got you. What do you need? So I would never charge anybody for anything. And I've seen people charge all sorts of companies right off the ripper, trying to get their feet wet into something that they're trying to do. And I get that. But I'm still just a fan, a dude with a phone. Again, the talent may label me as something else, and I love them for it. And I always embrace their kind words, and yourself as well as a promoter, as an active wrestler. But I just feel you need footage. I got you. I'm there recording. You're allowing me to record full matches, which most promotions would rather not because they have their own thing going on, their own YouTube, their own media that they've been producing and such. And I get that and I respect that at any promotion, you know. But it absolutely my pleasure to be able to be part of a WCWE show that has no footage. and be able to utilize my footage. I love it. And I don't care what type of wrestling it is because it's a different form. WCW at that time was a different form of wrestling because there's different forms, you know?
Yeah, and what was crazy that a lot of people, if we're going to pull back the curtain a little bit, because I think Seven already actually mentioned this, what a lot of people don't know either is how tough you are, because there was a WWE event where you were actually portraying a character, and you took a curb stomp. Unfortunately, it went a little bit wrong, and a few minutes later, you gathered yourself and you're back out there recording again.
I will put this, and I've been kind of lounging. It's after work, it's after dinner. I've been kind of lounging and talking to Mr. Cory Adams on his podcast. So relaunch, boys and girls, this is the fucking relaunch, baby. I'm sorry we are missing Mr. Ray, but anywho, I'm standing up for this one because I'm going to announce this masked wrestler was made up on the fly, center ring, and it was called El Chupacabra. And it was some of the most fun shit I've ever done at any of the shows. I portrayed a masked wrestler. My accent, I can do, you know, that stupid American portraying, you know, a Latino accent. I can do some of that pretty good. But somehow, some way, when I would portray Chupacabra, the accent went from Latino to Middle Eastern to Chinese. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know why. Because El Chupacabra was from Mexico. I mean, so I don't know how any of that happened. Curb stomp. My fault. I just didn't turn a little sideways. If I would have just turned a smidge sideways, I would have been good. I did have the old arm down, you know, to kind of protect, but still got a good smashing on the nose. Went to the locker room, if you will, unmasked, and didn't see any blood. My ugly face wasn't any uglier, so I gathered my shit. And I went back out, and we hit record and had some more fun for the rest of the night.
And yeah, that was crazy. It was also a lot of fun. And so with the Kincaid Files, now I'm not sure if it was around the same time. How did Stirring the Pot become a thing?
I'm just going to backtrack real quick to answer that because we never got to that. I ramble, my friend. We do know. I do ramble. Kincaid Files, the memory just came up, actually. It's been 3 years almost to the date, Mr. Adams. We are like mid-May, late May. It was for ECPW, East Coast Professional Wrestling. Fogman took me under his wing a bit and was bringing me on Center Ring as his co-host because I was going there as a fan, and he brought me in. I started doing Center Ring, which is a public access show out of Wallingford, and he gathers footage from the local shows and from across the country with promos and such, puts it all together for an hour show, and gives the fans some good, solid independent wrestling news, footage, promos, and you get to learn about new talent and stuff. But I went there with himself and Hoggy Hog, we like to call him, the production guy over at Center Ring. And we met at Bridgeport Brawl 2018. And for whatever reason, I just wasn't feeling sitting there recording that night. Like, I started to record when the event started, but I just wasn't feeling. I wanted something more. So I just got up and I started asking some of the talents if they wanted to give me a little bit of something. And the first person was a referee, and then it went into Zafar from Pyramids of Power. And then it went into the promoter, I believe, at the time, Jay Ice, and he was in the ambulance. And I thought it'd be real cool to get a guy who's all banged up in the ambulance. And I mean, he was banged up, bandaged, and the whole thing. It was freaking awesome. And the doors were open, and I go, Mr. Ice, do you mind Don Kincaid? I'm hanging with Fogman. I'm sure you're aware of him. And I'm just wanting to see if I can maybe get a couple words while you're all beat up. I hope you can speak to us, the fans. Is that something you would want to do? And he goes, I'm all about it. So I hit record. That time, that would be my third one, being with Jay Ice. And dude, ever since that ambulance one, I had to do more. I go, I cannot believe I just got like a quick little interview with a banged up wrestler, all bandaged up and fucked up, and he got beat up, man. He really got tore up in the ring. And I got an interview with him. This is fun ass stuff. I want to do more of this. And I continued the rest of the night. And I got me some El Jabroni. Oh, hell, El Jabroni. And he's not dead, Ryan Frost. F you. He's not dead. He's returning. He's being fixed up on, like, the Galapagos Islands from fucking Dr. Hugo Strange somewhere, getting that beautiful face fixed. And he will return. But that's another conversation another day. The Kincaid Files. And so I got some from, El Jabroni, Aubrey. I'm not even going to get into Aubrey and the stupid Fight Club. And I got my first one with Dirtbag Dan, I believe Ty Shine and Sergeant Ralph Murray. And there's so many talents that gave me their time that night, Corey. I swear, my high after that one show did not stop. It was a continual high. I'm like, I need more of this. I need more of this. So I was the roving kind of guy for center ring, if you will. And then Stirring the Pot became, I was talking to Yusef. Are you familiar with Yusef?
Yes, I am.
Now, Yusef, he's called Yusef 13, but the technical name is Unichromium Assault Force, Yusef, USA, Unichromium, see, he messes me up with his name. I don't know why he does it. Unichromium Savage Assault Force 13. Quite long. So if you just call him Yusef 13, it rolls off the tongue. Myself and Yusef, we kind of bonded a smidge outside of the ring. Like I said, I made relationships and friendships with some of the talent. So he started talking to me about, like, his legit life and his story. I go, dude, I've been wanting to do something else with the talent, and I think I just got it right now talking to you. He goes, what's that? I go, I want to do interviews and get, like, like real life, no kooky, like, gimmick stuff where they just give me what they bring to the ring. I want to talk real life stories. I go, this is perfect. I go, would you want to be my first interview? And bam, between Yusef, sister Laura C, and friend Eric Hunting, and myself, I was like kind of soundboarding off of everybody because I didn't know what to do with it. What do I call it? What should I use for a format? And what do I do to record and all of this stuff? So with those names that I just listed off, they all helped me kind of pull it all together. And Yusef was very helpful creative wise. And Yusef was my first Stirring the Pot. We got to episode 25, and it was really amazing, Corey, because I got to be invited to their homes or Test of Strength Dojo, and while they were training, and be able to watch training sessions going on and then do interviews with them as well. So I got to see some really cool stuff. But then, some of the talent didn't want me to know their address, which you can't blame them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I knew you were going to agree to that. You can't blame them. So I would meet them at maybe a park or such. Like Just Incredible, Scotty Anarchy, I interviewed together. But they made me meet them at some park in Waterbury. They just think I was too sketchy. I don't know. Didn't really ask that question. So, but I just had some really cool times, face to face, sit down interviews. And then the pandemic hit. Now I'm like, what the fuck do I do? So episode 26 started the Skype version of Stirring the Pot. And I figured Yusef was the perfect guy to do my first Skype one, so that's what we did. And right now, I just did episode 270 with Matt DeCourt. And my first episode of Stirring the Pot Skype version was March. March 2nd, I want to say, or somewhere around that mark. And from the beginning of March and we fast forward to 2021, I did 237 episodes in 1 year on Stirring the Pot.
Wow. And now you're almost at what? Like almost at 8,000 subscribers on YouTube?
Woohoo! Yeah, baby! I just passed the 8K mark, my man. Like,
nice. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. And that's been a blast because, you know, and I'm not, like, when I put up that I break X thousand, because I kind of started it like, dude, I mean, again, I don't know where all of this love comes from, because I hit 1,000. I'm like so stoked. I put it up that I hit 1,000 because I was like, I started at 16. Like, legit. I started at 16 because I had it as my band page, and I really never did anything with the YouTube. I put up a couple clips here and there, maybe one or two songs or whatever, but I never did anything. So we had very low numbers. I switched it over to wrestling, started putting some stuff on there, and holy crap, it's exploded, and we have just crossed that 8K mark, baby.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
That's like my my video game page for the YouTube. I put a couple videos up there, and it has like 5 subscribers, and like one has 35 views, and like other 3 have 0 views. So this the Ray and Cory Show, this is gonna be the first one. Right now we only have 1 subscriber, and this is gonna be the first episode posted on YouTube.
Oh, wow. Well, YouTube is visual. How come we're not seeing this beautiful package?
Because not everybody likes to do the video, so instead of like having one with video and then one with audio, then one with video, we're gonna keep it the traditional podcast, and we're gonna throw like a graphic up, so like they'll see a graphic like they'll see like the they'll see like the show graphic while they're listening. There's a couple other people that do it like that too.
Nice.
But like, I just think it's like throw it off a little bit if we like me and you did video and then the next guest just want to do audio, or if they didn't have Skype. Because the beautiful thing about Skype is, I'm not sure if you have this, but I have the subscription, so I could directly, if someone doesn't have Skype, I could directly call their phone and record that way.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, no, I don't have the subscription. And that was the reason why I went with the format of Skype, because what I ended up trying to do was I figured I could do an interview, and if I couldn't just record it while it was going, I can just screen record it, because now, you know, the newer phones have built-in screen recorders, or you can just download a third-party screen recorder and I could get away with it. Well, yeah. I tried to kind of record stuff and say video messenger, no bueno, only audio comes out. I tried screen recording in different platforms. No bueno, didn't come out, only audio. Then obviously Zoom, like, totally just exploded because of the pandemic. But then that's only 40 minutes for free. And then after that,
and the other thing with Zoom is like, so remember how we did Stirring the Pot and you had me and Stevie Legend as a guest?
Mm-hmm.
If you did that on Zoom, you need a subscription to have more than just 2 people on. So if we did that Stirring the Pot on Zoom, you would have had to pay for the subscription to have me, you, and Stevie on the call all at once.
Wow. See,
so now, I think that's why a lot of people are still sticking with Skype.
Well, the kicker, now I didn't know such thing, because the kicker for me was I didn't want to be limited to a time frame, you know, because Stirring the Pot legit has 0 format.
Yeah.
It's a free flow, just back and forth. There's nothing scripted. There's nothing written. I don't have any questions set. I have done no research on the talent. Oh, and again, boys and girls that are listening, don't do it that way. Very dangerous. The dumbest way possible to do an interview. Don't do it that way.
Well, you actually have something, me and you actually have something in common. Because that's exactly how I do the Ray and Cory Show.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Even after all my radio experience, working in radio, going to Connecticut School of Broadcasting, and learning the proper way of doing it, I still do it the same way as you.
I feel it's just more genuine. It's more organic, and it's more raw. And you, and especially because when you're dealing with wrestlers in general, some of them have been interviewed multiple times. Some of them have never been interviewed. Okay. So now you have to look at the ones that have been interviewed multiple times. Now you go, if you watch wrestling podcasts or listen to wrestling podcasts, there's kind of a specific format. When did you start wrestling? What got you into wrestling? What's your favorite match? What's your favorite opponent? What's your dream match? There's these specific questions that like 99.9% of the podcasts ask every single time to every single talent, which I understand. I get that because without that, you don't get said information. Okay? So what I do is I kind of do the same stuff, but not in the same way. I'll reword it and get where did they train, or I'll even just come out and say, where did you train? But I may reword it or put it in a conversation or, mess with them a little bit and then kind of bring it up in just a different fashion, if you will. So it's just more of a free flow thing. I try not to make it stuffy. I'm a jeans and t-shirt guy, and I just try to be a regular dude, The language is free flow. Some prefer not to, which is fine. And I always ask before I hit the record button, do you prefer, because I can kind of get loose with the lips, do you prefer me not to? That's fine. I won't. And they always say the same thing. It's your show. I go, yeah, but I want you comfortable. I don't want to drop some F-bombs on you and you'd be like,
What's funny about that is, just in a few minutes after we wrap up here, the second episode of the relaunch, in a few minutes, I'm going to be recording with Jose Garcia, formerly known as Jose Perez. Mm-hmm. And he asked me, he goes, this is PG, right? Because we all know, maybe not everyone listening, but everyone that knows Jose knows how he talks. And I told him, nope, you can say whatever you want, however you want. We are not scripted. We're not PG. Go for it.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate you taking the approach because even in the description, I put the same exact description. There's a little thing on each video that it's a raw, kind of natural feel. Is it dangerous? Absolutely. Is it dangerous? Yes. Is it fun? Absolutely. And I just feel that it just brings a little different flavor when you're not having maybe a set 5, 6, 7, 8 questions in front of you for you're using the same format over and over and over and over and over, right? So, and if you know me at the shows, I'm gimmicky. I try to be a fun fan and I bring that to the interviews. And I think that's where some of the talent appreciate it because I'm still Kincaid. I don't change it or I don't try to be something I'm not. I just bring the same exact energy, the same gimmickiness or the same goofiness, if you will, to the table when it comes to the interviews, but a professionalism at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
And with the timeline of me doing footage to doing the Kincaid Files to doing Stirring the Pot, there is not one thing, and I don't care if there's been a bad situation or somebody didn't like me for whatever reason or whatever the case may be, or I would never, from the day I started that first time hitting record to right now talking with Corey Adams, I would never change a damn minute of it, a second of it, except maybe turn my head sideways a little more when I was Chupacabra and I fucked up my nose a little bit, and that did hurt for about 2 weeks, I gotta say. But I would not change a mother bleeping second of it. I love everything, all the love, the respect, and with in capital letters, Corey. From you to any promoter, any wrestler, any manager, or have you, as I say over and over, because I want to make sure I include everybody, because the industry isn't only about the wrestlers. Many think such, and it's not. Just because there's 2 people wrestling or 4 people wrestling does not mean that they are the one and all or one and done when it comes to that match. There's so much that takes that to make that one match. So I always try to announce everybody because it's just such a big community that makes those things happen. And the capital letters respect. I absolutely love all the respect that each and every one of you have ever given me at any show, outside in the parking lot. Even at the store, I've seen, the talent at a Pride or a Cumbies or something. And it's Dad goes, hey, isn't that dude from Adrenaline Rush? He can never remember like names, but like when it comes to tag teams, he can remember like the tag team names. And I go, yeah, that's Dangerous Daniel Evans. So we see the talent and we hang out, we talk, we chatter and stuff. So the respect that I get from you guys and girls, I just absolutely embrace and would never change. And I thank you, each and every one of you. If any of them are listening at this point, I absolutely love you all for giving me that time, your respect, your love, and, hey, Kincaid, you're really cool. You're really cool. We love you, and I appreciate your time and your footage and your media. And it just goes back both ways, Cory, and I love all of it. And for you to bring me on your relaunch, I can't thank you enough, my friend, because you could ask so many different people. And I thank you for just thinking of me to include you in your podcast.
Anytime. You do so much for wrestling and so much for us. Like I said, you're more than just a fan. Like you help. You're passionate. You know what you're doing. Like I said, like especially for my vision, or our vision for WWE is, and I always thought of this since like I met you. You would be like the perfect Mean Gene type of character for a show.
I've been kind of asked that, or not really asked that, but I've been presented that. And it's funny you say Mean Gene. It's always been presented in that same exact way. You know what would be cool, Kincaid? No, hit me. It would be cool if you could be like our Mean Gene. And I go, wait, what? Microphone interviews at the shows and this and that. I go, dude, I'm down. These things have never came to fruition. Obviously, the pandemic made a big wrench in the entire industry and everything else in life. But I've been thrown that. And I'm going to put it out probably 5 or 6 different places have actually said that to me, including yourself with WCW. And those are those little things, though, Cory. Like, it would be so cool to have you as like our Mean Gene. My mind, and I only have one brain cell, my friend. My mind just absolutely explodes. Like, holy fuck, I can't believe they would think of me in such a manner, And I just, again, I love you guys and girls for even putting me in your thoughts like that. That's just simply amazing, period. It is. It's just simply amazing.
And with that said, you're always welcome at WWE. And you're always welcome to join the Bike Club. We'll always put that out there.
Well, if you notice, I kind of brushed upon the Bike Club real quick, and I didn't really say it that very clearly. That could probably be a whole interview in its own right, just talking about the stinking, in quotation marks, Bike Club.
And Mike Didgewater's on board, and he's trying to get you to come to the side, so we'll see how that goes.
I'm so glad you hacked his last name. That brings joy to my life.
I'm sorry, Mike, if I mispronounced it. I am sorry.
Of course you pronounce it. Everybody mispronounces his damn stupid last name. We call him Dishwater or Dishy or Drinkwater. Any of the 3 work.
So on that note, we're going to definitely have to do a part 2 with Don at some point. So with that said, thank you for coming on, Don. It really means a lot. Don Kincaid, everyone. Check out Stir in the Pot. Check out the Kincaid Files. Now, do you have a link for your YouTube, or do you still have the little funky little letters? Did you have a custom URL, or?
No, actually, I took the